Be Strong, The Rise of Beloved Public Art Sculptor Nancy Schön. Written by Darcy Pattison. Illustrated by Rich Davis. Narrated by Josiah John Bildner. The first time Nancy Quint heard the word sculpture was at her cousin's Halloween party. For one game, each child was asked to chew a piece of gum and use it to sculpt something. Her hands shaped a tiny cup and saucer. She won first place. Sculpture! Nancy graduated from the School of the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, with a degree in sculpture. She married and became Nancy Schön. Like many women, she chose to raise a family. During those years, she taught art and made sculptures of mothers and children. Just small pieces, nothing big. Then, one sunny day in 1979, Nancy strolled through a garden of bronze sculptures. In one sculpture, a bronze woman cuddled a bronze cat. When children walked past the sculpture, they patted the cat, or tickled it, or talked to it, and no one stopped them. Later, Nancy wrote, "Right then, I saw what I wanted for my art. I wanted my sculptures to be outdoors in parks where people of all ages could touch and enjoy them." Back in a large studio full of clay and wood and plaster, Nancy worked on 9 sculptures. Mrs. Mallard and her 8 ducklings, Jack, Cack, Lack, Mack, Knack, Whack, Pack, and Quack. Each morning, Nancy studied afresh the sculptures of the duck family. What problems needed work, she wondered. Mrs. Mallard. How can I keep her head from falling off? Jack. What does the inside of a beak look like? Cack. This isn't the right size. Lack. That's not a duckling wing. Mack. Terrible pose. Knack. Fix the lid on the eye. Pack. Pull up the feathers for a bit of action. Quack. Tilt the head back more. Quack. What might cause a child to fall in love with this duck? One day, Nancy sat in her studio, tired and discouraged. So many problems. Would she ever get the ducklings right? The artist, whose studio was across the hall, stopped to talk. "What's wrong?" she asked. Nancy explained the problems. The artist disappeared, but came back and handed Nancy a piece of paper with 2 words. Be strong. That encouragement was just what Nancy needed. She got back to work. The duck sculptures were based on Robert McCloskey's popular book, Make Way for Ducklings. But would the author be pleased with the duck family? When he came to check on the sculpture's progress, he said, "They might be too large." Be strong, Nancy reminded herself. She knew that when you move a large sculpture from the studio to outside, it seems smaller. Nancy and her friend hoisted Mrs. Mallard and 3 ducklings onto dollies and rolled them outside. A mother and 3 kids came walking by. The children ran to the ducklings and patted their heads. They asked, "Can we sit on the ducks?" The duck family was kid perfect. It was a magical moment for the author and the sculptor. In 1987, on a rainy October day, perfect weather for ducks, the duck family went to live in Boston's Public Garden, a beautiful park. Kids ran to the ducks to pet, climb, hug, feed, or talk to them. Nancy was thrilled. It was the beginning of a career in public art. A lifelong fan of the Boston Marathon, Nancy decided to create a public art sculpture about the race. She chose Aesop's fable, The Tortoise and the Hare, as a way to honor everyone who ran, fast or slow. But Public art is expensive and takes a long time. On hard days, Nancy reminded herself, be strong. Finally, after 7 long years, Tortoise and Hare was installed in Copley Square, the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Nancy wrote, I had put a smile on the tortoise's face. Now as young and old walked by, I saw them smiling back. Over the years, Nancy has created dozens of public art sculptures around the nation in outdoor parks. Children now run with raccoons, slip over and under and around prairie dogs. Comfort Eeyore with a hug. Pat Pooh Bear's belly. Listen to Piglet's stories. Rub a dragon's gem for luck and better grades. And ride and dream on the back of a comfortable bronze caterpillar. Making public art is hard. Nancy wrote, you shape an idea, throw it away, shrug, and start again. Take away some, add, take away more. You don't mind, not too much, because little by little it gets better. You keep at it, you get help, try again and again, and then it works. And on those hard days, Nancy always found in her heart and on her lips those 2 words, be strong. The Rise of Public Art Sculptor, Nancy Schön, circa 1938. Nancy Quint as a child, unknown photographer, circa 1975. Before the Make Way for Ducklings sculpture, Nancy Schön was identified as simply an artist, not a public art sculpture, used with permission from the collections of the Newton Free Library, M.A. Above, circa 1987, Nancy Schön working on the duckling sculpture in her studio. Photo, copyright, David Wurzel. Left, circa 1987, Nancy Schön working on the duckling sculpture. Notice the Be Strong sign on the wall behind her. Photo, copyright, David Wurzel. May 13th, 2019. Nancy Schön in the Myrtle Street Playground, Beacon Hill, Boston, Massachusetts. Photo, copyright, John David Corey. 2022. Nancy Schön and her grandchildren. Photo, copyright, Jackie Schön. Front row, left to right, Natalie, Julia, Charlie. Middle row, left to right, Ben, Zeke, Nancy, Mia, Hannah. Top row, left to right, Jackie, Claire, David, Sivan. Nancy Quint Schön, 1928. Nancy Quint Schön, an American sculptor, grew up near Boston, Massachusetts, where her father ran his own florist shop. There she learned to work hard and how to finish a job. At the School of the Museum of Fine Arts, she learned to sculpt. She married Donald Schön, 1930 to 1997, and spent the next 3 decades raising their family of 4 children. In 1979, Nancy visited Mizpor Shalom Sculpture Garden in Ein Had, Israel, which is devoted to the work of sculptor Ursula Malbin. It was there that Nancy saw the sculpture with the cat that encouraged her to pursue public art. At the age of 59, her first public sculpture was installed in Boston's Public Garden, Boston, Massachusetts. The Make Way for Ducklings sculpture of a mother duck and her 8 ducklings has become an iconic landmark. When First Lady Barbara Bush asked for a duplicate sculpture for Russian First Lady Raisa Gorbachev, Nancy and her crew flew to Moscow for the installation. Over the next 3 decades, Nancy has created over 20 public art installations that gave children a place to play and interact with public art. Nancy is now making some of the most complicated sculptures of her life. The process is streamlined by technology. She now sculpts the miniature of a sculpture, called a maquette. When it's approved, she has it scanned and 3D printed at full size. She uses that as the armature or framework, to create the final sculpture. Make Way for Ducklings by Robert McCloskey. Nancy Schön's first public sculpture was based on Robert McCloskey's book Make Way for Ducklings, which won the 1942 Caldecott Award, given by the American Library Association to the artist of the most distinguished American picture book for children. Robert McCloskey saw Nancy's drawings, the maquette, miniature sculpture, an early stage of the process, and the final sculptures. He approved of them all. From idea to installation, the Make Way for Duckling sculptures took 2 years. Most of Nancy's public art projects took years to complete. A bronze plaque reads, "For the child in all of us." Caterpillar. Bronze sculpture created by Nancy Schön. 2022. Public art sculptures by Nancy Schön. Over the years, Nancy Schön was asked to create large sculptures to be displayed in public areas. Each time she had to receive approvals and find funding. Once, the funding was promised but then fell through, and she sold t-shirts to pay the costs. Another time, a committee took Nancy on an emotional ride by saying yes, then no, and then finally, yes. Several statues were commissioned by grieving families who had lost a loved one. Nancy's work helped them find a note of hope. Because public art is created for and installed in public places, an artist must always find advocates and supporters. It's never easy to create public art. But over and over, Nancy has found a way through resilience, stubbornness, determination, hope, and a lot of hard work. 1987. Make Way for Ducklings. Boston Public Garden, Boston, Massachusetts. 1991. Make Way for Ducklings. Novodadavichi Park, Moscow, Russia. 1991. Eeyore Children's Patio, Newton Free Library, Newton, Massachusetts. 1995. Tortoise and Hare, Copley Square, Boston, Massachusetts. 1995. Raccoons and the Magic Horseshoes, Children's Bridge, Belle Meade, Tennessee. 1996. Empty Sled and Dog, Sarah Pryor Memorial, Hannah Williams Park, Wayland, Massachusetts. 2000. Dancing Girl, Edmund and Lily Safra Children's Hospital, Tel Aviv, Israel. 2001. Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Pot, Children's Patio, Newton Free Library, Newton, Massachusetts. 2002. Lintel and His Dog, Lintel Park, Hamilton, Ohio. 2002. Gateway to Independence, Carroll Center for the Blind, Newton, Massachusetts. 2003. Scholarly, Whimsical, Gentle, Lucky, and Loving Dragon, Cambier Park, Naples, Florida. 2003. A Dragon for Dorchester, Nonquit Street Green, Dorchester, Massachusetts. 2004. Nursing Sundial, Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston, Massachusetts. 2008. Butterflies in the Francis Street Garden, Francis Street Garden, Boston, Massachusetts. 2009. Tortoise and Hare, Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, Bentonville, Arkansas. 2010. Sal's Bear Children's Garden, Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens, Boothbay, Maine. 2012. Piglet Children's Patio, Newton Free Library, Newton, Massachusetts. 2014. Friendship Children's Garden, Myriad Botanical Gardens, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. 2017. Butterfly Metamorphosis, exhibit at Regis College, Weston, Massachusetts. 2019. Myrtle the Turtle, Myrtle Street Playground, Beacon Hill, Massachusetts. 2021. Diversity, the Owl and the Pussycat, Nonquit Street Garden, Dorchester, Massachusetts. 2021. Newton Bronze Flower, Newton Public Library, Newton, Massachusetts. 2022. Caterpillar, Waban Commons, Newton, Massachusetts. 2022. Charlie the Snail, Boston Children's Hospital, Boston, Massachusetts. 2022. Millie the Ducky in a Puddle, Concord Library, Concord, Massachusetts. 2023. Reach for Knowledge, Wellesley Free Library, Wellesley, Massachusetts. Forthcoming, Dialogue, Two Figures, Fujian University, New Taipei City, Taiwan. Forthcoming, Memorial for Italian Immigrants, Peace Garden of St. Leonard Church, Boston, Massachusetts. Sources: Interview with Nancy Schön by the author, July 2022. Multiple conversations by video and email between Nancy Schön and the author, 2022 to 2023. Schön, Nancy, Make Way for Nancy, A Life in Public Art, Boston. David R. Gedine, 2017.